Welcome to Oldsmob 455. Here's an update on this trailer. All the cross supports are replaced that are going to get replaced. I wanted to work on this worn latching mechanism next, but I cut that tail piece off and now there's enough weight back there to flip this up. So logically this is the next piece that has to be repaired. Replace that rusty box tubing. Pretty heavy, at least 200 plus pounds I'm going to say this thing is. I took a measurement from left to right so I know what to cut the new tubing at. And now it's going to be a matter of separating the ramp portion from the tube. And I'm going to try to save these top two taillight housings, I guess you'd call them. I put this 1/4 inch angle in here earlier and it's holding the trailer right where it needs to be. So I'm going to use a torch and clean up all these cuts. It kind of looks to me like on both sides they didn't have the best fit. They just filled it all in with weld. It's like a 1/4 or 1/2 inch of weld between here and there. Both these pieces had stress cracks in them too. I think I might put like a triangle or something in here when I reassemble it. I guess for now I'm going to flip it up, just start hacking away at it, trying to get that tube out of there. I guess I'm going to start mostly with the cutting torch because it's easy, and then clean it up with the grinder after that. Throwing a couple wheels away. I'm 12 wheels into this project at this point. Not really sure what I'm dealing with yet. It looks like this is diamond plate here that was welded to the box tubing. But for whatever reason, there's a seam in it. I use a heavy piece of angle here on the ends. You can see she was rusting from the inside out. Definitely time to replace this tube. And you can see a weld here. I had to make multiple cuts just to get that box tubing out of there. Still a little chunk of it left in the bottom here. Got ribs inside here. Looks like they welded on the inside and probably welded the top on or something like that. But this front seam came off pretty easy. This back one, it's gonna need some more work. There's gonna be multiple torching sessions just getting this cleaned up. So I'm torching away here, and some of my torch lines might look like crap. But what's happening is there's rust behind there, and that's all oxidized already, and that stuff doesn't want to cut. So I ended up blasting out the top. I'm gonna clean this out. And we'll try to get the back piece out there. So I'm out there torching and torching and torching, and finally my tip got clogged. The head on this one's mashed in a little bit, probably from dropping the torch. When these are hot, they can get deformed pretty easy, so you don't want to. So they can be cleaned with one of these jobs. These are not sharpened on the end; they're just like a blunt object to push the stuff through. So I take the tips off so the stuff can fall out the back. So I just found this at the welding store. It contains 12 drill bits, and you can chuck it up in there. Seems to me it helps if you have a magnifying glass, especially if you're getting older. But I'm not a big fan of wearing readers. But you just find the correct size drill bit, and you start running it through all the holes. There is a number on there. And the welding store wanted 20 bucks a pop for these. And I went online and get like a 3-pack for 20 bucks. I think I am going to order a 3-pack just so I have it. I think it's a good idea to have at least 2 of them too if you're doing a big project, so you can swap them out easy. It cuts so much better when you have a nice tip. You're getting the proper flame burn. I've determined that that size drill bit is the correct one for that size tip. So I'm going to run it through all the outer holes and then figure out what I'm supposed to do for the inner. Got the center hole. The oxygen comes out of there when you hit that boost trigger. They also had this resurfacing tool, a 2-piece design. This goes on there, and this end has a blade. You just stick it in there and turn it. And studying the blade, it looks perfectly flat to me. So I think just taking a file across there would be just as effective, probably more effective, because you can only get so much pressure with your fingers on this. These tips do have a bit of a shape, so I'm not sure how well it would work like that. So before I go to that measure, I'm just going to try them like this and see how they work. Working pretty good. I got it to the basic shape that I want. I was just trying to blow out that old tube. It may have even been a rolled piece of sheet metal, I don't know. It's a really weird seam they had down here. Now the grinding begins. Probably looks worse than it is. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just going to knock right off. So I'm going to grind it out and try to get my new tube to fit in there. Kind of interesting, they got welds on the top and the bottom, And the ends of these are actually welded to that. I think it was actually rolled sheet metal. I don't know how else they would have completely welded inside something like that. Here's a piece of 3/16 inch box tubing. It's probably heavier than what was on there. I'm gonna see how it fits at this stage. And it's doable. Being kind of cheap here, this is a double taillight that was on top of that cross tube. This material is probably cheaper than my time, but I don't have to go back to the metal store at least for this part. What I did here is I torched around this piece to get the top of that other tube off of it. How much I rusted in between there. And now I can tell where to torch and grind to clean the rest of this up. This is the one that had a crack in them. To weld that crack, I probably have to make a new end cap for this one. This far in, might as well finish it up. I'll lay this out here. I'm gonna pre-drill it before I weld it on. They're saying for those taillights, the hole's 6.6 by 2.5. These are 2.5 by 6 3/4. But the important thing is I measured the edge of this circle here. It's about 1.1/8 in from the end of the tube. It's a 2.5 hole saw. Kind of beat up. I'm gonna try to get 4 more cuts out of it though. I measured center, drew a line at 2 inches, came in 1.1/8 for the edge of the hole. I eyeballed the hole saw and drew a center hatch mark. I added 6 5/8 to 1.1/8 for 7 3/4 and drew an end line here. And then eyeballed another center mark. So once these holes are drilled, I'll just take a like a rotary cutoff wheel and connect the 2 holes. To be DOT compliant, they had 3 big center taillights in the back, red ones. I'm just gonna run one of these jobs. I've measured the center of the tube this way and the center this way, so I got this piece about where I need it. So I'll drill 2 pilot holes, and I'm gonna drill a hole through the back for this wiring. It's fully welded. It just took a couple minutes to grind this down, and you can see it's opened up there. That bottom tube has to be notched to accommodate the marker light. This piece seemed to be notched for that light, so I went ahead and notched this piece as well. Hopefully that leaves in there good. This is pretty much how she's going to have to be. I can tack weld this top tube in, tack weld this. I think I'm going to grind this off and then we'll weld her up then. Should get it pretty square. Came up with for that, I use a little bit thicker metal because this is a stress point here. I'm going to try to get some weld on the inside through here. But we'll see how that turns out. It's a little bit humid out here today. This is the price you pay for fixing up a old piece of shit trailer. There they are, both fully welded in there. I went ahead and cut out my inside piece after I had it welded on. I think it probably looks about the same as what it did. This should give it plenty of strength now to go ahead and attach this piece. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but this piece like bowed when I cut the tube off. So I'm gonna try to get it somewhat square before I tack it back on. I've cut a couple pieces of angle. I only have 2, otherwise I'd do probably 3 or 4. I think I'm gonna tack them on the bottom side. See if I can get it somewhat straight before I tack the whole thing on. I'm just gonna grip it on as I go, and what I get is what I get. See the gappage on either end here. So I'm gonna work from the center out. I'm not sure if the angle flexed more than the piece or what, but I'm gonna flip it up here. We'll see what we got. Should have got a shot like this before, but I think it actually helped pretty much. Utilizing the forklift here. I can get any tilt on it I want for fitting it back on here. These inside brace pieces have welds on one side and the bottom. The tops have some welds deep down in there. I don't even know how they did that, but none on the outside here. So I'm gonna add some welds on the outside before I clean this up for final fitting and tack. I get welds on both sides of the top and bottom. Just getting a ton of dirt out of it. Bulkheads are spaced about 10 1/4 and 20 1/4 in from the edge. This side's 10 and 20. I think I'm going to drill some drain holes on either sides of these bulkheads. Maybe one here and here. It's possible water was getting in there. I don't know if you can see this. This expanded metal came out one more layer. Actually, to trim it back. Let's cut it with an angle grinder right in the center here. To be able to clean this all up here at this edge. So this ramp is probably like a 1/2 inch shorter. We got her tacked on. We're just using a straight edge off that big angle iron and measuring like this. Got the same on both sides. So we know it's parallel. I thought I had it fit better than I did. We ended up with some pretty big gaps on the bottom and on the sides. I may have to get some filler metal. That'll make a lot of passes. But I think it's where it needs to be. I think I'm going to fully weld it. And then we'll come back at you with another video on this. Thanks for watching.